Hello and welcome to episode 72 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're your source for weekly drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
Yep, basically we're just regular dudes drinking very regular beer, and we are talking about Magic the Gathering, and in particular, the story, the lore of the game.
That's right. It's another Drunken Vorthos episode. Bow, 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 bow. Really, honestly, our favorite episodes. I know I say a lot of episodes are my favorite. These are really my favorite. So this is our Drunken Vorthos.
We're lying all the other times.
Yes. Drunken Vorthos, Streets of New Capenna. And as always, it couldn't be a Drunken Vorthos episode without being a Silver Series. Jeff, what's a Silver Series?
All right, so as our enfranchised listeners know, here on the Arena Regulars, we like to rate our beers on a scale of bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. And in that system, silver tends to represent the macro brews. So our macro brews go in silver, or our micro brews that, are indistinguishable from macro brews. So when we're talking a silver series, we are pitting all of the, every time we're bringing all macro beers and we're pitting them against each other. So we have 4 today, and we'll rate them from silver 1 to silver 4, where obviously silver 1 is the best.
That is right. What is on tap first?
Yeah, I'm excited. So we did sort of like an Eastern European thing this time. We brought a bunch of Polish beers and one like East German beer. And so we're starting off with a beer I have actually never had before, but it's certainly a macro brew, so it definitely falls into the silver category, and that is Warka Strong. So this is a beer out of Poland. It's a pale lager, but it's kind of reddish, actually.
Yeah.
It's 6.3%. That's why it's called Warka Strong. I don't know if there is a Warka weak or a
There
Warka
is.
regular.
They don't call it that,
Okay.
but there is.
And this beer is from 1478. So if you've listened to a Silver Series before, you know we do them chronologically. Unsurprising that this is our first one up at 1478.
Now, like I usually say, I'm fairly positive that the Warka Brewery, it was founded in 1478. I cannot tell if this specific beer was made then, because all of the websites are in Polish. So it's hard to know any information about it. But that's the best I could find. And it kind of has an amber color. I think they use light malts and they roasted ones. So that's why it gets kind of a mixed color like that. But anyway.
So they do add some darker malts to it.
They do.
Nice.
All right. We have a little bit of Magic news. There is an arena open this weekend. It is historic. So as always, please just pick the amount of times that you're going to enter this event, and do not buy more gems to enter it. That's a slippery slope. That's some gambling problems. So
That's right. Always good advice. We'll continue to give it every time. And we stick to it ourselves. So we practice what we preach on that.
That's right.
And the other exciting news, hey, Streets of New Capenna spoilers all over the place. We could really get to talking about all these cards, couldn't we?
no, we're not talking about them this week.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to hear our thoughts about the cards for New Capenna, that's next week and the weeks after that. But this week is all about the story. So let us get into the Streets of New Capenna story. All right, little bit of background for everyone that's a little confused. So New Capenna is a city that is surrounded by a temperate dome on a plane we don't know the name of. But basically we know that that dome encapsulates the city and keeps it good, and everything outside of the city is dead wasteland, a bad place.
Yeah, and so inside the city, we have the 5 demonic crime families that kind of rule the streets. We have the Maestros, the Cabaretti, the Obscura, the Brokers, and the Riveteers. Now, I wonder if it's maybe worthwhile to go in a little bit into each one of them, give their broad, what role they kind of play. So the Maestros, from my understanding, these guys are like the assassins, pretty much. They, if somebody needs to be taken out, this is where you go. And in terms of magic, they're blue, black, and red.
Yeah. They're also vampires and own a museum. So,
Right.
kind of cool. The green, red, and white aligned family is the Cabaretti. They're like the cat people that have crazy cat parties that people come to. And they are just very lavish. They live large.
Yeah, and those are the only two families.
That are on New Capenna.
Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, I was just got confused because I think they're the only ones that show up in the story. But so the Obscura are white, blue, and black, and they are Demir, as far as I could tell. Seems to be no apparent difference between the Obscura and the Demir. They trade in secrets. They do that whole underworld kind of thing. Seen it before, I guess.
Yeah, that's really interesting because the green, white, and blue aligned family is the Azorius. The brokers are like the lawmakers. Cool. They make laws. They enforce them, I guess. I don't know anything about them. The story doesn't talk about it at all.
I think
they like
the brokers are featured least.
No, are the Riveteers the least?
Yeah, so we'll get to the Riveteers. Actually, they're technically, I think they edge out the brokers in terms of their.
Oh right, no, now I remember.
But it's very close. It's very close. But that leads us to the Riveteers. These guys are like they build everything, I guess. So, you know how the mafia always has its hand in like construction. I guess that's these guys. And they're black, red, and green.
Though I think I read somewhere that they're considered the destruction workers, not the construction workers. Anyway.
Gotcha.
They blow up stuff, I guess. In any case, the story really only talks about the maestros and the cabaretti. So I hope you're excited to hear a lot about them.
Yeah.
Getting off to a strong start with this one. Whew. All right. Also,
which, to be fair, just on those descriptions, those are the two I'm most interested in. So I think they picked those by design.
Yes, because the other ones are not as fun. And also, this world is basically a 1920s feel. All the Art Deco skyscrapers and flapper dresses, pinstripe suits, very jazz, fun, excess. It's a lot of like popping champagne bottles and cool stuff. Yeah, finger guns. It's great.
Yeah, they're very sartorial. They take their their dress seriously.
They do. They really, really do. All right, Jeff. Let's talk about disclaimer, as we're talking about this. These are the episodes of the story. There were 5 episodes, and this is the main story for New Capenna. We are not talking about any of the side stories, so if they talk about the other families there, they probably do. We missed it. Oops, my bad.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The other families would be featured in the side stories. But.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Episode number 1. Homecoming. So, with a story about New Capenna, I just thought it would be really great to start off in Theros, an old,
yeah, of course,
an old story moment that happened 8 years ago or something. So this is just Elspeth's last final moments as she's dying and basically being dragged to the underworld. And it kind of goes through a lot of her backstory, which we're not going to get into too much. But it's basically her fight with Xenagos on Theros and then getting punished by Heliod and then going and dying and getting dragged to the underworld by Erebos. And it's sad, and Johnny cries.
Yeah, and then a lot of like random mentions of Daxos that I felt like maybe were unnecessary, but I don't know.
Yes.
She loved Daxos, and something happened to him, I guess. He's like Heliod's homeboy now.
Yeah, well, so the broad strokes. Elspeth wants to kill Xenagos and blah, 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 all this stuff. After all that happens, Heliod, she kills Xenagos, and then in her dreams, while she's sleeping next to Daxos, Heliod puts something into her dream that's basically her fighting to free herself, and she wakes up and has killed Daxos. So it's her fault. So she killed him. And then he gets dragged to the underworld, and then she has to work with Erebos.
Heliod kind of did.
Yeah. So then she tries to get Daxos back from the underworld, but blah, 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 he's not the same, and things are sad. And anyway, that's not this story. But Elspeth has a really sad, horrible past filled with Phyrexians and loss and death and no love and no home and just sad.
She does seem to get the shit end of the stick, eh?
She really does.
Every story she's a feature in, it's always terrible.
Yes. And spoiler alert, this is no different, really? Is it?
I mean, it's probably her best one. I don't know.
Anyway, let's get into actual Capenna.
With Xander and Angelo. So these are essentially the number 1 and number 2 guys in the Maestro crime family. Xander would be the head of the family. Angelo's kind of his right-hand man. And they are in the Maestro's museum, so their headquarters, which, by the way, I don't know why the museum wasn't the triome choice.
Oh, what is the triome? Is it something else?
It's just Xander's like office, so it's called like Xander's lair or something. Xander, it's like we really should have been in his museum.
Just say, oh God, that makes me so mad.
But anyways, they are talking. You get the impression that Xander is quite old, so they reference a lot his cane. He has trouble walking. They're sort of sowing some seeds here that Angelo is maybe being groomed to lead the Maestros, and Xander is sort of the used to be the top assassin in New Capenna, and is maybe his body is starting to fail him a little bit.
Yeah. They also talk about this guy, the adversary, which is a mysterious person who happens to be recruiting unloyal members of the Maestro's family. And they are not super sure who's behind this, but they seem to have a good amount of halo, which is our first reference to this object, which we don't know much about at this point. And they're kind of speculating that maybe the Cabaretti are behind it because they seem to have a lot of halo, so maybe the adversary is one of them, but they're not really sure. In any case, they're a bit worried about the strength that he is gaining and that he may be able to create an imbalance in the force, I guess, on New Capenna.
Yeah, and so sort of, I think the picture they paint of the adversary here is like very new. He's new to the plane, but the Maestros sort of know not to underestimate him. They have their sources out there saying, hey, this guy's actually legit. He poses a real threat, and is not just some hotshot kid who thinks he can start his own crime family or whatever. So we're sort of at that point where the adversary has gained enough traction that he is starting to be taken seriously. That was sort of my impression of where we're jumping into the story vis-a-vis the adversary.
Yes. Now we're jumping over to the Cabaretti Ventolione, I believe that's how you say that, where we meet Jetmir and Ginny, who are the head and right hand of the Cabaretti. Hey, look at that. So Jetmir is our big granddaddy man who's another old dude who's joking about how old he is. And Ginny is constantly trying to undercut that with like, no, but you're so great and everybody loves you. You throw parties. We all love you. You're not old. And he's like, well, you love me because I have a bunch of money and I back these parties. But it's a light, flirty, jokey way. It's very cute, but also kind of possibly creepy, but it's okay. We let it slide, I think.
Yeah, because it's like his adopted daughter, right? So...
yeah, but...
It was a little too flirty for my taste, but whatever. I think it's trying to depict playful.
Yeah, to me it seems more like, it might be his adopted daughter, but she also seems to be like very ambitious, and she's purposely doing stuff to get herself in a place where she can control something. So it kind of seemed like they were both getting something out of it. Anyway, whatever. So this is
let's blow past
let's just blow past that. So this is where we learn about this. The Cabaretti are throwing this big party called the Crescendo, where they're going to reveal the font. Now we don't really know what any of this is, but they keep talking about it. But essentially, the Crescendo is the New Year's party, and it's for everyone to come and enjoy.
This also where we find out that the adversary is not, in fact, in league with the Cabaretti, because the Cabaretti are also a bit concerned about him. They also talk about the adversary, talk about how he is gaining some traction, very similar to conversation with the Maestros have, just sort of in their Cabaretti mannerisms versus the way the Maestros looked at it. So immediately we've sort of dismissed this Maestros maybe thought that the Cabaretti were working with the adversary. We now know that the adversary very likely is completely on his own relative to the other crime families.
Yeah, and is probably siphoning people from a bunch of different crime families. But
right, yeah.
Then we also get to meet Kit, who is a singer for the Cabaretti, and Giada, who's kind of like this sad, scared, like teenager that has a lot of pain in their life. Seems really reserved and kind of like there.
Right. It seems like Ginny almost speaks for her. Like she doesn't really speak.
Yeah, she's
just kind of
there.
goes with the group. Yeah.
So just the third party of that bunch. But Kit is very excited because she excited for the crescendo and that she's going to have a big song and people are going to love her. And so we're kind of focused on Kit at that moment. All right. This part is this was my favorite part coming back to read it again.
So those of you that were totally predicting that we would start this story on Theros probably also predicted this part when we come to the Streets of New Capenna, and Vivian Reed is there. Now, you might ask, why is Vivian Reed here? I would say that the answer is still rather unclear, but apparently she is interested in a world where nature and human-built, or I guess not necessarily humans, but constructed, like worlds work in harmony, whatever that means.
Yeah, I don't know.
And so she thought maybe this giant metropolis that had a dome to seal it off from the natural world around it was probably the one. I don't know. She's here for a reason that the authors didn't want to think too much about, I think.
Yeah. It seems like this is like her quest, and she showed up here and quickly realized it was not that place, and then she thinks that the city is going to split by the seams at some point, and she sticks around.
And then also we find out maybe she could have had different motivations for sticking around.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so she walks through like the streets, and then there's like some dragon talking about to all the people about the different houses or families and kind of what they're doing and how they're trying to influence the citizens, I guess. Because there is a bunch of people. So the crime families are just the families. But it's not like Guilds of Ravnica where you're in a guild and there aren't really that many people that aren't in a guild. This is like, no, there's a ton of regular citizens and then just some families that control everything. But there's a bunch of just regular people, I guess. Anyway.
Just like the real world.
Yeah, look at that. We are the people listening to the dragon talk. And while this is happening, Vivian's standing there and a wanderer type person, weird stranger guy, walks up and kind of says, you think that you fit in here with the clothes you're wearing, but you don't. You're just like me. And then they realize they're planeswalkers and they start walking. And then eventually we find out, he's talking to her about like Halo and stuff. And then this person reveals themselves to be Tezzeret. Right. And I'm like, wait, what? Oh, shit. I was like, whoa, what the fuck? He's here too? Yeah. Shit. Okay. And so then, but it seems like Vivian doesn't really know who that is. Does she not know who Tezzeret is? I thought they were both at the War of the Spark. But...
So it says that she had heard of him. It's like, she's heard the name Tezzeret enough to know he's not to be trifled with or something like that. You've heard of Tezzeret, who is this planeswalker with a metallic arm. And then you see a planeswalker with a metallic arm, and until he reveals that he's Tezzeret, you're like, you have no idea. Like,
I was guessing he had he must have had a cloak or something. Anyway, she's following him, and they're walking together because she wants to learn more about the plane. And then he talks about Urabrask, and she's like, I wonder what that is. And we're like,
Yeah.
that's a fucking Phyrexian. That is
It's a
the red.
predator.
That's the red Phyrexian. Is this going to be exactly like Neon Dynasty, where it's Tezzeret and the Phyrexian fucking shit up?
Except this time, instead of like them having to, trick Tamio to complete her or whatever, Vivian just walks right up.
And just does it.
Hey,
She just signs up.
complete
She's like, I've been looking for
You
what
complete me.
I need something that takes nature and the constructed world and puts it together into one. I want to be completed. Sign me up, baby. I've been looking for this forever. Dumb. Anyway, she doesn't seem to be worried about it, and then she just goes with him. And am I right in saying that that's the last time we ever see that interaction ever?
Yeah, like we, spoiler alert, Vivian will show up later, but Tezzeret and Urabrask, I think, are maybe mentioned at Tezzeret never again, and Urabrask like once.
Yeah. So this makes us think that this is going to be the rest of the story. It's not. Spoiler alert. If you were wanting to like leave this podcast being like, no, I don't want to hear another story about Tezzeret and Phyrexian. Don't worry. They're not in the story. They don't even need to be in this part. It's ridiculous.
So this whole scene with like Vivian and Tezzeret and all of it is clearly them trying to just justify like why Vivian is there and why she might have information that Elspeth's gonna need. And that's the whole point of it. And I don't think they did a very thorough job like thinking it through. They just kind of slapped it in there. And it totally feels like they needed to retroactively like explain some stuff, and so they wrote a couple of paragraphs.
This sounds like somebody wrote it before they read the Neon Dynasty one, and were like, oh shit, and then just forgot to rewrite that part, and it's like an old draft. That's what it seems like to me. Where it's like they just like, that was originally what they were going to do, but then they changed their minds at one point, and then they submitted the wrong one. Like, it was really weird. I don't understand this part.
So this is where I was referencing that the Riveteers might have had a bigger role in the story than at first appears. Because the dragon who's talks about like how maybe a misplaced screw, or or like he's basically saying they're gonna not build stuff correctly for the other guilds that or crime families that have taken them for granted. So to me that meant, okay, this guy's a Riveteer. And then I noticed that the head of the Riveteers is a demon dragon, Ziatora. So I think maybe the dragon that was giving the speech is Ziatora. And so in that sense, they even had their leader show up in the story, kind of. So.
Okay. All right. I'll take that. That's cool. Just trying to recruit people because nobody wants to be in the Riveteers. Anyway. Sweet, good,
right.
Cool.
And that led to this all-important, his natural charisma led to this all-important meeting of Vivian and Tezzeret.
And Tezzeret.
So it really drives the whole story, actually.
Really important. Anyway, Jeff, let's jump to a train station. We are now... Elspeth is on a train to New Capenna. From where? That's what I want to ask you. Where the fuck is she coming from? The train is just like the subway station.
So she planeswalked outside the dome, and then
onto
there was a train that took her inside the dome?
I don't know. Anyway, so she steps off the plane, and she's kind of disappointed because she thought that her home would feel more like home. Or at least that's what Johnny said.
Right.
And that's the end of episode 1.
Yeah. So I guess the key takeaway there is that Ajani told her this was her home plane.
Interesting.
That was the sort of cliffhanger or ending note of the of the first chapter.
Crazy. I'm not super sure. Let's read the second chapter to see if that's actually what happened. Because
okay, cool.
We get more into that in the second chapter. Which, Jeff, tell us what our title is.
All right. Up next we have episode 2, Dirty Laundry.
Ooh.
And we are still at Metzio Station.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is like Grand Central. I don't know. This is like a big train station. It's at the center of the city. It's kind of a central hub. Elspeth needs clothes, I guess, because she looks like she doesn't belong. Because when you planeswalk, you take the clothes of the previous plane or whatever you had on, and, it's realistic that people on completely different planes would not have the same fashion sense. So She sticks out like a sore thumb.
Seems more important in this plane, but we haven't seen a ton of this in other planes, but I get it. I get it. Hey,
Yeah.
you look different. What's going on?
And then she like bumps into somebody on the train, and that triggers a flashback.
Basically, a cat person, a Leonin, runs into her and says, "Hey, keep your eyes forward." And she's like, "Oh my god, that reminds me of this one time I was on Dominaria." And then we flash back to Dominaria, and it's like the first time she sees a Johnny since she died. And so she's alive again. And Johnny's like, "Holy shit, you're alive." If you don't know, a Johnny is our Leonin planeswalker. He's a cat guy. He's also very like stoic and cool and like, I don't know, dad-ish. Him and Teferi are like the Gatewatch dads.
Yeah, he definitely seems to have that like fatherly connection with Elspeth.
Yeah.
So is this like a racist thing? He bumps into a Leonin, and then that reminds her of her Leonin friend, and she like goes back.
I mean, like it was a person that looks like her old friend, and then also said the words that we're gonna get to in a moment that are the same words that he had said to her. So I can see that. Basically, Johnny is talking to Elspeth about. He preaches to her about life and the true meaning of home, because Elspeth is always worried that she has no home because, not spoiler alert, in her past, she spent her youth in a jail, basically, and then her spark ignited, she planeswalked away, and I think she went to Bant, and she was there for a while, learned how to be a soldier, and then eventually went to like Theros for a bit and thought the gods were cool, and then went to Phyrexia and a bunch of shit happened and it was really scary, and then she went back to Theros and then she died. So she's always looking.
Is that where she met Ajani? Like, because Ajani was on Alara. Right?
Yeah, I think she met Ajani in Bant. That was so like kind of during her like adolescence, essentially. But when she was really little, she was like a prisoner in a jail cell, and it was really scary and sad. And this is kind of the moment where Ajani is telling her, "Hey, I found where your home was," but we don't get to know just yet. But we all know it's New Capenna because she literally just told us in the last chapter. But just wait.
That's the way they structured it.
Yeah, that's the way it's structured. But as he's talking about what home truly is, which is like in your heart, she's kind of like, "No, I just want a place to call home. I want to know my real home." And Ajani just tells her to keep your eyes forward, look to the future, and don't let the demons of your past consume you. I liked this line. This line, it did something for me. Because I liked that they tied it with where we were before, and also talked about the demons of your past, which she has demons in her past, but she also has demons she's gonna face in her future. So, literal
demons in her future. Yeah.
Literal demons. So that was nice. I thought that was a good little, just a little sprinkle of something nice in there. Hey, good job.
Yeah, glad you pointed that out. That line went straight over my head because I was like, "Yo, let's cut to the chase on this flashback." I mean, we all know he's gonna give her some advice and then tell her that New Capenna is her home plane. Why does this need to be like the longest section in the episode?
This is kind of funny because I was thinking the same thing until I started just enjoying reading it, and then throughout most of the story, and I think most of the stories, whenever there's like fighting, I like don't care that much, and I'm more interested in the non-fighting parts, and I just kind of forget what happens in the fight because I know that they're gonna get out somehow, and I just like don't care. And I just want to hear the other random shit where they're just like standing and talking to each other. But anyway, Elspeth has a new job on New Capenna in present day. Tell us about it, Jeff.
All right. Well, she works at a dry cleaner's. I don't totally like. Is she the delivery girl? I guess she delivers like the clean clothes back to.
I think,
whoever did it, or she's just like a general. She's just like general worker, you know.
Yeah.
Just cleans the clothes, maybe does some deliveries, like whatever they need her to do. That's what she does. Mm-hmm. And it's very important that there are 6 types of dry cleaning. One for each family, and then one for the peasants or citizens.
Yeah, the fucking
not
us.
the riffraff.
Yeah.
Like, you can't let the clothes touch the citizens' clothes. I mean, that would be
Or the other families. Yuck. No.
Right.
You got to keep the vampire clothes away from the cat clothes, away from the, I don't know the other ones because nobody, I guess dragon clothes? I don't know.
You know what though? I can kind of relate to not wanting my clothes mixed in with a bunch of cat clothes because it'd be like hair that you just can't get rid of.
You're right. But if those cats were the only people that were throwing parties, I'd probably have a lot of cat hair on my clothes anyway because I'd probably hang out with them a lot because they're a lot cooler than if you don't.
They have the most halo, so
yeah. Which we still don't know very much about, and we will find out in a bit. So we get the impression that Elspeth doesn't have a really good relationship with her boss. That's fine. She doesn't really give a shit about this job. She leaves to go on a delivery and comes back, and oh no! There are a bunch of maestro punks harassing her boss and basically breaking a bunch of shit in his store, and he looks worse for wear. Like, they might kill him. Like, it's not good. Remember, these are vampires.
Oh yeah,
so.
I think it's sort of like implied that they're definitely going to kill him if she hadn't stepped in. So yeah, she steps in and then runs like a wimp, and sort of a chase scene ensues through the streets of New Capenna. And one thing that I found interesting is like it's made very clear that these maestros do not care about hurting innocent bystanders. They don't give a shit about that. They're like hurling magic at her, like throwing daggers, trying to just do whatever they can to catch up to her. Because we skipped over this too much. Elspeth talks some shit.
Yes, she does. There's also a nice moment where they're basically asking her if like she works there or does she have any special interest in this owner, and the owner speaks up and says no, she's just a random patron trying to save her, which is very sweet.
Right.
Another weird fatherly figure thing where they have a bad relationship, but he kind of tries to protect her when he is at his weakest. Very nice.
Right.
But in any case, they are running away, and this is a good moment to remember Elspeth doesn't have a weapon. This is a soldier who doesn't have a sword. It's going to be a big deal. And we remember it at this moment. Because she wanted to fight them, she just can't. Because there's too many, and she doesn't have a weapon. So we run away, and then... Jeff, do you want to talk about the brawl? I don't think it's that interesting, but if you remember things about it, go ahead.
No, I don't remember that much. Basically, she calls them, ugly butt heads. That infuriates them. They chase her around the street. They shoot magic at her. They throw weapons. She ends up finding like rebar, basically, just some like construction stuff.
The
she
riveteers.
Picks up one of those, and then good old riveteers. And then she, basically kind of like goes all Darth Maul on their ass with like this pole, and kind of pretty easily beats them all is basically the main point.
Very easily, yeah.
Which begs the question that did she even really need the weapon? But like if she beat them that easily, maybe she could have beaten them with pretty much anything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was a moment where she tries to punch somebody and she hits their armor, and then she's like, "Oh shit, that didn't look like armor. That looked like just clothes." And so we realize, oh, their clothes are armor. We didn't know that. So that is one important moment.
That's true.
Through all of this, after everyone is beaten up and laying on the ground, a figure emerges from the back. And it is Angelo. Oh my gosh. And he's like, whoa, that was pretty crazy how you beat up my whole family. You got some real chops. Do you want to work for me? And so she says, no, I don't want to do that. You guys suck. And he's like, oh, well, we could give you a bunch of Halo. And she's like, no, what is that? I don't want that. And he's like,
sorry, what?
Sorry, what? Who the fuck are you? You don't know what Halo is or how good it is? You really aren't from around here. Which Elspeth does not enjoy hearing. Someone on her home plane telling her she is not from here. Oof. That does not go over well.
Yeah.
basically, as they're doing this, they're still talking about stuff, and then eventually they're talking about a statue that is like basically an angel fighting a Phyrexian, and she's like, "Hey, what's going on with this thing?" And then Hello's like, "Oh, I don't really know, but we have a bunch of shit like that at the Maestro's Museum, which is where is their headquarters."
Yeah.
Flashback to Jeff.
Johnny. It's a flashback to a Johnny telling her home is New Capenna.
Oh. Wait, her home is New Capenna? That's crazy. I just thought, it's not.
Yeah.
She didn't tell us
This
that.
scene was really necessary. Like,
Yeah,
if they
absolutely.
didn't go back and explicitly map it out for me, I would have been very lost. So
That's crazy.
really thankful for that part.
Flash forward to New Capenna, and Elspeth finally agrees to join the Maestros because she wants to learn as much as she can about the Phyrexians. Maybe they invaded the plane, maybe not, we don't know, but she wants to know as much as she can about her home plane.
So, a couple of things that I like about the Angelo interaction. The first one is that Angelo watched Elspeth beat up, like, I think it was 4 goons with this metal stick. And then he calmly walks up to her, and she obviously reacts and kind of is holding it to his throat, basically. And he doesn't seem scared at all. So I think that tells you a little bit about him, where he just watched her beat up 4 people with a stick, and she now has that stick right up against him, and he's still seems pretty confident that if things were to go awry, he'd be okay. So he must be, a pretty badass dude. And also the other thing is when he reacts to her name being Elspeth, this is kind of our first indication. It'll come up again. But basically, we're meant to understand that that's like a really old name. Like, people wouldn't be named that these days. That's like an old name that harkens back to the past of New Capenna, and that's what we learn sort of at this point. I think he says something like you would only see that name on a tombstone.
That's a good catch. I forgot about him doing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is cool, and you're right. It does strengthen their relationship a bit because it makes her feel connected to the plane, which is her entire story, and her purpose right now is just trying to find her home and find what that is. And so someone telling her that, hey, that name fits with where we are, but just like way in the past, like so old.
And his perspective is like, oh, your parents gave you an old ass name or something. But, we as readers, and obviously Elspeth knows, planeswalkers can be hundreds of years old or more. And so,
also,
I don't know exactly how old Elspeth is, but probably just legitimately has that name from a long time ago on this plane.
Yeah. We also don't exactly know if multiverse time works the same way on all multiverses. So there's a possibility.
Yeah, they're a little intentionally ambiguous about that to let them, tell whatever story they want.
So, like, there's a possibility that she could have left and she could be in her late 30s, early 40s and come back, and it's hundreds of years later. So we just don't know. But yeah, anyway, Jeff, we have a little bit of an epilogue, which is kind of important.
Yeah, I don't know why all chapters except the first one have an epilogue, and then the epilogue is just legitimately part of the story. It sort of felt like a weird thing to do on their part, but...
It would make more sense if the rest of the story was in one location, and then we jump to a different one for the epilogue. However, that's not the case, so I do agree with you. That it does feel just like part of the story.
In fact, the epilogue's like the only part that was consistently in New Capenna.
Yeah, right? So, this epilogue, we see the adversary is talking to his goons or people, and he finally finds out what the font is. And he doesn't tell us, no one tells us, but he does kind of laugh and say, oh, that's so... He doesn't say stupid, but he kind of says, oh, that's dumb. Wow, the Cabaretti are really keeping that... Basically, it's so easy to steal. It's just like out there. That's great. So then he's like, wow, the crescendo is going to be one hell of a party. Yuck, yuck, yuck.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh, also, Jeff, who's the adversary again?
I don't know. Do they tell us? or is it just a powerful enemy, or is it a planeswalker? What is it?
Oh, a planeswalker. That sounds kind of that sounds like.
Huh.
Oh, wait, is that Tezzeret? Is it Tezzeret? That would make sense because we saw him earlier.
No.
Oh, who is it?
No. It has to be a demon. Remember?
Oh,
It has to be a demon.
You're right. Who is a demon that we know that's a planeswalker? I don't know, Jeff. Who is it?
It's Obnixilis, of course. The
Oh
demon
my
planeswalker.
gosh! Wait, the guy from all the art we saw from like the intro video
Yeah,
to New Capenna?
exactly.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy! I would have never thought Obnixilis would have been on this plane.
Yeah, so that's the big reveal of this chapter. We're kind of making fun of it because it could not have been more obvious.
Yeah.
That's who the adversary was. It would have been hard to be interested enough in this story to read it and not already know that Obnixilis was the adversary.
Yeah. I mean, like, once we basically found out he wasn't one of the heads of the crime families, which is what we kind of originally thought when we saw the picture, then you're like, oh, well, this is another important character that's doing shit. It's him. It's got to be him. So,
Yeah.
they will.
And if you maybe saw the card spoiler, Obnixilis, the adversary, that was also a bit of a giveaway for me.
That's true. That's true. To be fair, this story did come out before that card did. So if you read the story, you know.
Ah, okay. Fair
But,
enough. Fair enough.
You know. But yes, no, it's fairly obvious. So with that, we come to the end of episode 2, and Jeff, my beer has been empty for so long. Fuck, I need a drink.
Yeah. We shouldn't have planned like the background and 2 episodes with just one beer.
I know.
We should know
Rookie
ourselves better
mistake.
than that.
We should really know.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's go grab a beer. This beer break is brought to you by our patrons over at Patreon.
That's right. You're already supporting the show just by being a listener, but if you want to support the show even more, the Patreon is the best way to do that.
And when you become a patron, you get an exclusive invite to our after party, which is a mini episode recorded immediately after this one, where we ramble on about non-magic things.
Plus, you get to vote on which one of us you like more by choosing to buy one of us a glass of Halo.
Ugh. Well, I mean, yeah, sure. Sorry, no spoilers. Maybe I'm not super interested in drinking Halo, but apparently it has some really good properties. So yeah, buy us around a Halo. That sounds good. So go to patreon.com/arena regulars to give us some Halo. Alrighty.
Zach, I introduced the first year, so I think it's you that has to tell him about this one.
Yeah. It's great. It's great that I get to talk about this one. So, from Poland, again, we have another Polish beer. It's another pale lager. This one's 5.5%. It was founded in 1525, and it is called Lizajsk, I think.
If you had to put a percentage, like a probability on that being correct, what would you throw out there? Like,
I could say that 60%. You know, I know.
wow, that's confident.
Okay, sorry, no. 60% of it is pronounced correctly. Like, I'm sure I said le.
Oh,
it could be
okay.
correct. Za, maybe za, maybe, you know. I know that the end is wrong. Jusk. I don't know how to.
Yeah.
Zashk.
So
Shk.
I looked it up.
Okay.
I just typed it into Google, pronounce, and some Polish person has recorded themselves saying it and put it on the internet so that we know. I'm even going to butcher it, knowing the quote unquote correct answer.
Okay.
But it's Lizajsk.
Lizajsk.
So the J is like an I, and the Z is like a J. Lizajsk.
Weird. Lizajsk. Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well,
But I think you did get the A, S, K, L, and E right. So yeah. I mean,
you know,
that's
about
pretty
60%, right? All right. Perfect. Jeff, let's get back into the story.
let's do it.
Episode number 3 is called Tests. So, SATs, you know, is this the AP exams? I don't know. Let's find out. Now, we pick up with Elspeth, who has been working with the maestros for a while now. She's kind of ingrained in it, and the museum has kind of lost its excitement. She's looked at everything and got all the information that she could from that. While she's looking around, Xander, the head of the Maestros, seems to come over to her and start a conversation. She hasn't really ever talked to him before, and they're just kind of talking about stuff and like how she can learn more information about things. And basically, it kind of comes out to, well, you got to do some things for me. And she says she knows exactly what that means because they're the vampire assassins. So she's like, well, I don't really want to bloody my hands at all and like kill people because, Elspeth is a good person, doesn't kill people. But I like this quote. And Xander says back to her, oh, but the price of knowledge is oftentimes found in the veins of others. Very,
Damn.
all right. I like that. That's cool. Also very vampire-y to say. Obviously.
Total. That's what I was thinking too. Like, yeah, a vampire, an ancient vampire would definitely say that.
And it may be important to our story in the future, but we will find out.
I was just thinking, like, right between episodes 2 and 3, it would have been the perfect time for like a movie montage where Elspeth is just like in the museum, like putting books away.
Like
apparently she's just like tending the museum for like a long time before
writing things down. That would be great. There are a couple. I also Eye the Tiger and stuff. I would want that same montage, but with Elspeth folding laundry and like doing laundry.
Yeah, we needed one for that too. That's right. Yeah.
Netflix, the Magic TV show. I want some magic montages, please. Thank you very much.
But okay, so Xander's saying, you're not going to be able to avoid bloodshed. Is basically what he's telling her. But he says she could still do some work for him that doesn't overtly require her to kill anyone.
Yeah. And to his point, he does mention, hey, forcing someone to kill somebody when they don't want to usually ends up pretty badly and is very messy. So it's much better to have someone who wants to kill people. He has experience.
He's basically like, yeah, if you wanted to kill someone, I would put you on that job, no problem. But, in my experience, if you don't want to, you're not a good choice for the job. So.
Let's go to test number 1.
This was when I was just like, what was the point of this? But okay, so test number 1 is she delivers a package.
Yep.
That was it. Everything goes according to plan.
But it is to the Obscura, so that's when we get to meet the Obscura. There happens to be someone.
Right, I forgot that they needed to be woven into the story in some extremely minor capacity. So, so she goes there and she delivers the package to an Obscura, and I think there's a detailing of like a really small mark on the door that if you didn't know it was there, you wouldn't see it, and that's how she knew that this was the right place.
Sweet. So, after her test, or I guess her package delivery, which she's very good at because that was her old job, she learns a bit about how the city was founded, which, Jeff, what happened? Well, where did New Capenna come from?
All right, so I got to make sure that I'm only telling the stuff that we learn at this point in the story, but we learned some broad stroke stuff here. That basically this city was founded by archangels and demon lords who basically had to form a very unlikely alliance because of some, common enemy. I have no idea at this point who that could be, the common enemy to the plane. Yeah. But the demon lords and the archangels had to team up. There's like a painting I imagined it as like an oil painting in Xander's office of like a demon lord and an archangel shaking hands and forming this alliance.
Yeah.
But nobody has any idea who this mysterious enemy is.
Oh, no. How would we know?
Yeah.
There aren't like statues around with them, or like we've talked about them before, or Elspeth's interested in them and has fought them before. No. Absolutely not. That's a mystery. But though, to be fair, it seems like Elspeth kind of knows, but Xander can't really remember because it was so long ago and he's so old.
Right. I was going to say, like, we do learn that Xander was pretty much there for that, but he just doesn't really remember anything.
He doesn't remember the important information of who the enemy was. That's ridiculous. Somebody wiped his mind or something. I don't know, but there's no way that you can't remember that. Anyway,
That's the part I was unclear on because they never like make it explicit that his mind was tampered with, but it feels like they're sort of maybe hinting at that.
maybe the
Or you're
Obscura
meant to
did
maybe
that.
think that because how else could he possibly not remember like
The
this
most important
fundamental event that changed his life forever? Like,
when he was younger. I don't understand. Anyway, through this, the demon lords created the city of New Capenna, and they appointed the 5 families to run the city. So the families already existed there. Oh, they're all different kinds, and he basically gave them the power to rule the city by giving the heads of each family the creature type demon in addition to the other creature types.
that's that's a one way to put it. I don't know if the demon lords actually said that.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you creature type demon in addition to your other creature types.
I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
Yeah, I mean maybe I wouldn't be that surprised.
Yeah. All right. Elspeth goes on test number 2 to get some more information.
Test.
Test. She has to follow an informant that she watches come out of some place and make sure that they get to another place and see where they went. While this is happening, oh no, something does kind of go wrong. She runs into a bunch of raccoon folk who are in this abandoned warehouse, siphoning Halo from barrels, I guess. And they're just like raccoon people, and then they chase after her. But once again, she doesn't have a weapon, so she can't fight them. She has to run away. Gives them the slip, and then finds where the informant is going. The informant is going. Jeez. I had one 6.3% beer, and I'm already slurring my words. All right.
Well, to be fair, it was half a liter. It's not your usual 454 milliliters or whatever a tall boy is.
You're right. Right. It's a bit bigger. It's a bit bigger in these bottles. Yeah. Anyway, and then she ends up seeing where the informant went, which is great. But very importantly, she did find an empty warehouse.
Yeah.
So that's good.
So the raccoon folk encounter is even worse than you described it because she just like runs right through them, basically. They like come out and they're like, "You're ours, lady, like we're gonna mess you up," because she calls them rats or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then she just like charges through them because she needs to keep pace with her informant. And then the raccoon folk, I guess, are pretty dumb, so they don't know which direction she went. I didn't really understand the point of this encounter. It felt like they knew the first test went off without any encounters, so they needed to like throw something in on this one.
Yep. Yeah. You're right. Yes, that's exactly it. Yeah.
It feels like you were playing Pokemon and you walked through the tall grass and it just like threw a random Pokemon at you and you defeated it extremely easily and just went on your way. It's kind
in
of
one
like,
shot.
You've played those types of games. Like,
Yeah. It's like, oh, is this just like a trip in the game where if you walk past this line, they have to pop up? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I do like the raccoon folk. It's not like I'm against raccoon folk. I just thought that their contribution to the story was lacking. Yeah. Anyway, this is once again how Elspeth doesn't have a weapon because she had to run away from the raccoon folk. So the first thing she says when she gets back to Xander is that she needs a weapon. And Xander's like, "What? Are you going to kill somebody? Because that's the only reason you need a weapon." And she's like, "Well, no, I don't want to kill anybody, but I need a sword." And he's like, "Well,
defend myself from raccoon folk that I defeated easily."
So what Xander should have said was, "Oh, so you want a shield? Okay, I can give you a shield to defend yourself, but you don't need a sword if you're not going to kill anybody."
He probably doesn't have any shields. What am I going to do with that? We're a bunch of assassins.
That's true. This part is great. So Xander sits Elspeth down and he pours each of them a glass of Halo. And we talk about it for a little bit. And she drinks it. And surprising enough, it's blue and like shimmery. And she drinks it and it is very warm. And it feels amazing. And she feels very strong and powerful and like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like super juice, I guess.
So apparently, not only does this thing sort of power stuff, because they do mention earlier, like Halo is for powering stuff, it is also like a fine scotch, basically. Like he has some in this decanter that he pops open, and they drink it together, and he pours enough that it's basically one sip is in her cup. So I'm just imagining they are powering their entire city with scotch, which is pretty dope.
That's pretty dope. I like that. Okay. I was thinking, I mean, like, yeah, yes, it does feel like a scotch, like, and there is a warming quality to that, so that does make sense. No, you're right. The only thing I was thinking is that this is unstory related, but WotC did send out a memo to all the LGSs because there, of course, is a pre-release in paper coming up, and they want a bunch of people to do the paper pre-release, and they talk about Halo, and they explicitly said Halo is not a drug, and that you can make it into rock candy and have fun having everyone taste Halo, but you are not under any circumstance allowed to put it in a martini glass and make it look like a cocktail, because that is not acceptable. And obviously magic is for everyone, and there are people that can't drink alcohol. However, they put it in the story as a drug.
It's so clearly an alcohol.
And there is even art of Elspeth on her card holding a martini glass filled with Halo. You can't do both. That's my little rant. It's over now. I understand why they would try to make everyone feel included, but you that was a second thought. I mean, oh shit. No. So, whoops, we forgot. Let me do DCI ranked events in bars.
I feel like in Flavortown, this thing started out as cocaine, and then they've maybe we make it alcohol. And they're like, oh, maybe it's actually nothing. Let's
actually it's both.
Don't worry about it.
We will get to that in a little bit, but because there's more to that story. So as they're drinking it and deciding, oh wow, Halo is so cool, all this stuff, Xander just drops a little nugget of truth right here, talking about the past, and just says, Halo was the last gift of the angels.
Whoa.
Elspeth kind of says, that's a really generous gift. What a weird thing. I can't believe that they gave that gift. And he's like, yeah. And he kind of laughs to himself. Test number 3. Jeff, bring us home.
I still think it's so hilarious, though. They're like, yeah, the angels, before they left the plane, gifted us with scotch. It's like, really? That was their final part? Like, does that add up to you, man? Like, that they're like, here, have a nice bottle of wine. We'll see you motherfuckers later.
Yeah.
But all right, the final test is, they decided to mix it up. First, it was a delivery, then it was following someone, and now it's a delivery. So she has to deliver. She has to deliver a vial of Halo. They were really struggling to come up with non-violent tests.
Things to do.
They could put Elspeth through.
This feels like the video game.
Deliver this, Elspeth. Fine. When are you gonna kill someone, man?
Yeah, this is like, it's kind of like playing Sly Cooper or something, where it's like a PG game where you have to do something or steal something, and you have like the weird tasks where you have to avoid the raccoon folk. That's what it felt like the whole time. Like, these are the boring ones in like Splinter Cell where you have to pick the lock. It's so boring. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. It's like a side quest that they just clearly added to the game later to just buff up the amount of content they had. And it's you run from here to here, and maybe some raccoon folk get in your way. I don't know.
And you have a timer and you have to do it. Yeah. It's all the shitty ones that take you forever because they're not fun. It's just I just have to run really quickly.
Right.
And you can't stop and fight because you have to keep running. And if you try to stop and fight, it says, oh no, and they're running away. And then it just cuts to you starting again. But you don't even...
But if you're a completionist like me, you have to do it.
It's just... Anyway. Sorry. Let's get back on track because we're already getting a little long.
All right, so she has to deliver a vial of Halo, and it's the discreet drop-off kind of thing. It's like, it's in an unmarked bag, and I'll leave that here, and then someone else will pick it up. So she does that, and who does she encounter on this mission?
Our friend Vivian Reed. I forgot that she was here. Oh my god, Vivian, what?
Must be after her meeting with Urabrask.
Yeah, that went pretty well because she's still alive and uncompleted.
Right.
Unless there's a part of the story they didn't tell us and she actually is completed and like infiltrated them. That would be kind of interesting if we ended up being that, but it doesn't seem like it. Also, through all these tests, Elspeth has felt like Xander knows more information than he should on her like arrival. So it basically means that like Xander has people tailing her to make sure she does it right and doesn't talk to other people and isn't like lying to him. So she sees, oh my gosh, some of Xander's men are tailing me like they have the whole time. So Vivian and Elspeth has to kind of hide in the bushes, which Vivian's really good at walking through bushes apparently. So that's not a problem at all. And they kind of team up and say, hey, there's some bad people here. We got to get to the bottom of this. And Elspeth's like, I need to learn about my home. So I guess I'll team up with you for now, as long as it entails me learning about that.
And I think it's something like 2 sentences between her meeting Vivian Reed and her deciding Vivian Reed is totally trustworthy. It's very, very fast. It's just like, yeah, we're best friends now.
Or like chill. Like I understand like, oh, you're a planeswalker, and like obviously that a lot of good. I guess Vivian is just like any planeswalker she's friends with. Like and she's fine with it. So Elspeth must also be like that? I don't know. But Elspeth knows like really shitty people, but not planeswalkers though. Elspeth really knows really shitty like gods or Phyrexians, but she hasn't really dealt with a bunch of shitty planeswalkers. So okay, I could see that. Whatever, I'm fine with that.
And then like Vivian like name drops the Gatewatch, and Elspeth's like, now I know you're a good person.
Anyway, she does that, completes her task, goes back to the hideout, and she's talking to Xander. And through all of it, he's asking her slowly about the adversary, which seems like maybe he got some information from his men, and they might think the adversary could possibly be Vivian, but also just, do you know anyone? Have you been around? He's been kind of trying to figure out if she's working with the adversary, I think, through all these tests. And through her having absolutely no idea who the fuck that is. He's like, okay, cool. So, hey, now that you are one of us, man, I'm going to give you a dagger. And do you want to go infiltrate the cabaret? Because we need to know what's going on with them. And so Elspeth decides, hey, I infiltrated one family. I could do it again. I'm going to infiltrate another family.
Yeah.
Easy enough. Let's do it.
Now, there is a thing about the dagger that I kind of like, because Xander basically says, I'll give you a less shitty dagger when you can prove yourself better, which I thought was nice, because it's just like, yeah, you want a better weapon? You know, keep working, but here's like a piece of shit dagger.
This one? This one fucking sucks.
And then it is also mentioned at this point that like the other maestros that she has fought before had daggers where the blade was perpendicular to the handle, and she had a normal one that's like the blade is parallel to
okay.
And I was like, that's kind of a cool like visual of the assassins with the dagger that's perpendicular to
the handle. Kind of like a brass knuckles thing, like the set symbol. That's cool.
So anyways, that was just a nice touch that I wanted to give the author a little nod for.
Yeah,
that scene was well done, I think.
You know what also was really well done? The next gift that is given
Elspeth's
to
outfit.
Yep. The next gift that Elspeth was given is her flapper dress. That's right.
Nice.
Elspeth is a flapper, but it's not just a dress. And everyone, please remember, as we're watching and looking at this card, no, it is actually armor. It is it's like a suit of armor that is made to look like a dress. But it is, in fact, just her regular plate mail that she's used to. So she does actually feel kind of at home in this outfit, which is nice. It's not just kind of like the dude giving the chick. It's not like Vertigo where he's like, wear this dress and you're going to look amazing. It's like, here, you'll blend in. Also, you won't die. Great. We have, once again, a nice epilogue to our episode quickly of Elspeth just going and infiltrating the cabaret and trying once but failing, and then quickly meeting the most important person she could meet in the cabaret, and then them deciding that she should be a cocktail waitress. So she is now Elspeth, the cocktail waitress.
Hey, I'd play that card.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the one thing I think is cool about the, flapper dress with the armor is that, to me, as soon as I read that, it suggested that Xander expects some shit to go down at this party, right? Like, why else would he give her a cocktail dress or a flapper dress that is actually armor if he thinks that it's just a party?
That's true. Hey, that seems to be rolling into our next episode, episode 4, entitled The Font. Jeff, tell us what's going on at the very beginning of this episode.
All right, so we immediately jump into Xander basically acknowledging that he's gonna die. He's like thinking about his death, and he's talking with Angelo, and he's being really cryptic, basically suggesting that Angelo is going to one day take his place, and that he's been grooming Angelo to do this for a while, and he's doing that thing that I'm sure you've got this vibe in like certain movies or in books in the past where like this is a dude who knows he's gonna die tonight. Is sort of the whole Xander vibe going on, and obviously the person he's talking to, as is tradition, has no idea, just thinks he's being weird, basically. So Xander is being all like thoughtful about and contemplating, death, and is talking to Angelo, and Angelo's like, "Hey, are you okay, dude? You seem kind of down.
Like what?
Is everything all right?"
And a lot of it is like, wait, you don't want to go to the party, man? Like, we're about to go to the party. It's going to be fun.
Right.
And Xander's like, no, you go instead of me. It'll be good for you to be there. I will stay here. Like, you should be the new face, essentially, of the house or the family.
But yeah, basically he says, Angelo, you go to the party because they'll be offended if we don't send anyone. And he's like, they're still going to be offended because I'm not the leader. And Xander's sort of like, well, you essentially are.
Yeah.
Basically.
And then Angelo leaves, and once he's gone, kind of from the shadows, it's the moment where this character who thinks they're going to die is looking one direction, and we see from the shadows the enemy pop out, and they talk to them without seeing them. That's kind of what it feels like. Right. Where he's like, "Oh, have you finally come to kill me, adversary?" Which is, of course, Obnixilis.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. He is here to kill you.
Spoiler! Holy crap!
Yeah. It's also important to note that like Xander, it does kind of run all of New Capenna. Kind of like they do talk about how he runs the whole town, so he kind of is the most important family to target. Not that the other ones are less important, but well, obviously they are because we only listen to this one. So you know what? The Maestros are the most important family, and fuck every other family, I guess.
Yeah, and it's like a common thread through all of the stories that Xander knows what's going on in the city before anyone else. So he always knows everything, and people are always, marveling at how he knows certain things. And there's even a scene at the beginning where he knows which district of the city Angelo went to because he can smell it on him. Like, he just knows everything about the city, and he knows everything that's going on, and he always knows what happened. So this is, I think, a fitting scene for him where he's like, all right, the adversary is here to kill me.
This is also, of course, the moment where we like him the most. He is very sweet, and we really connect with him. So another props to the author. Damn, getting me with this one. Anyway, we are going over to the cabaret crescendo, where Elspeth is now all of a sudden a very trusted cabaret servant. A servant, quote unquote. No, she's a waiter. But is there a difference? Sorry, that's the waiter in me talking. So she's serving drinks because it's easier to get her to have eyes on the floor as you're serving drinks. And Ginny comes up with Kit and Giada talking about tonight's performances and how amazing they're going to be. And Kit is very excited to do her solo. But of course, Ginny and Kit have to leave momentarily, leaving Giada and Elspeth alone.
Yeah. And it might be worth it since I feel like it was like an hour ago that we introduced these characters. But yeah, Ginny, Kit, Giada are just the trio for Cabaretti. Kit is the singer, and Giada is the moody teenager that does not speak.
Yes.
Okay, so Giada, moody teenager, is left alone with Elspeth. Something basically, like, it's a very awkward conversation that they have together. But we find out there's going to be some big performance that Giada is a part of. It's really unclear what, but basically Giada talks about how nervous she is for the big performance. And so Elspeth's like, well, why would you be nervous unless you were a part of said large performance?
And through all this, Elspeth kind of asks, like, oh, are you singing a song too? And Giada's like, no, not exactly. You'll see. And Elspeth doesn't really feel good about this. It makes her feel very uneasy. Like, I don't know what's going on with this teenager and these people. I don't know if I really like them as much as I thought. So Ginny comes back. Kit is going up to sing her song. And, everyone loves that. That's great. And then we transition into the big performance, the main thing of the evening. And this is what the Cabaretti were talking about before. Giada is kind of being brought up to the stage by Ginny. We have this gigantic glass vase placed on the stage. Is as big as Giada is. And basically, the performance is through a blast of white and blue light. It blinds everyone in the area. And what's left is a vase that is full of halo.
Whoa! So they used the font somehow.
How did they do that?
They have the font somewhere in the background. The font is filling up this vase while Giada is standing there.
It's got to be under the stage, and they have like a pump, and then that's the font.
Right.
Yeah.
Some like David Copperfield kind of stuff,
No, we know that came out of Giada, and Giada is the font. She can create halo on demand, and it makes her very weak, and it hurts a good amount. And that's why she's always so quiet and sad and, full of pain. Because she's getting just milked for all the halo she's got.
Right. It's sort of made clear that it's her life force that she's trading in for halo. And so, boom, the font is the moody teenager.
Whoa, crazy. I actually didn't super see this one coming, so that was great. I liked this build-up.
I saw it coming when Giada said she was part of the performance, so like literally one paragraph before. And I was like, oh shit, is that what's happening?
So you get that kind of dread.
They kept it tight to the chest until, you're like, what's about to happen, but you're still like, is that really what's... Maybe I'm wrong.
Really? Maybe I'm wrong,
they
but...
just have a font.
So, that was kind of nice.
But deep down that you're not wrong.
So much better, much happier with that surprise. Good job. It also ties some stuff
well
in.
Executed.
I liked that. So
right, and when it ties back to like Obnixilis smirking or like chuckling when he hears about what the font is, you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
He heard that it was the moody teenager, and he chuckled about that, and then was like, well, it's going to be a hell of a party.
Exactly. And it also makes sense because earlier, we didn't mention this, but when Xander's telling Elspeth to infiltrate the Cabaretti, he says, all I want you to do is go in and find where the font is, and then just like keep the door unlocked so we can come take it. That's what he wants. And so the whole time you are, they do put it in your mind that it is in a place that's secret, as opposed to where it really is out in the open all the time, and nobody has any idea.
Yeah, I was picturing an actual font.
Yeah. I was picturing like Times New Roman. That's what I thought.
Yeah, totally. I was Comic Sans MS personally.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anyway, so big reveal, Giada's the font. The entire story changes after this. So we go back to the Maestro's museum. Xander is now fighting with Obnixilis' henchmen, all the easy assassins. There is a good moment that you're talking about where those assassins used to be his family members, and they are trying to kill him with the daggers that he gave them, which are all shitty daggers. And he's like, "Oh, you think you can beat me with the thing I gave you? Because that thing fucking sucks, bro." Yeah, I did that on purpose. I thought about this.
Like, I'm not so stupid that I give you better weapons than I have. Like,
Yeah, like, come on.
and he also has the advantage that he knows the museum that he's in extremely well, and they do not. So you also understand that he prepared for this in multiple ways. Like, he didn't really let anyone get a good internal map of the museum because he knows that they might be traitors one day or whatever. So there's sort of this cool scene of him running through his museum, cutting down different ways that they don't know. So even though he's like old, he walks with a cane, he's still able to outpace these people and fight off any of the ones that come, which I think was a cool fight scene we talked about earlier. It was cool to see that, give you that reverence for why Xander is the top dog, because he sort of beat these guys so easily despite basically being an old man that walks with a cane.
Eventually, he comes to a balcony and hides out in there, closes the doors, and kind of takes a moment and during this fight really just sees the landscape and was like, there's a moment where he just remembers, I've always loved this view. Which is kind of a really artistic, poetic moment. And he's an artistic, poetic guy because he does curate this museum and he loves all these art pieces. So he's very deep like that, which of course would make him want to be in a situation where he could have a very poetic ending. So, of course, he's on the top of a building on a balcony. Obnixilis finds him because it's not that difficult to be able to get there. And they kind of have this little standoff. And as Xander's trying to move very quickly and dodge under and stab Obnixilis under the chin, where the only part of his face isn't covered in armor, Obnixilis moves incredibly quickly. And he's expecting it's probably because of the halo that's in his veins, because halo does make you move faster. And are stronger and better than you normally are. Obnixilis does something that has broken, in my mind, this breaks magic lore and makes it so awesome. And I don't know if you remember this specifically what he does. Do you know? Do you want to tell it?
It sounds like you're excited to tell
Okay.
it. But,
So, Obnixilis... he literally does finger guns to Xander and shoots him with magic. He has like a magic bullet that comes from his hands and shoots him in the chest as Xander falls from the balcony to his death on the streets of New Capenna. Awesome. I loved it. I was so on board with the finger gun magic shooting. That's so fucking cool. Yes. Why have we never done this before? I know that people are kind of against it because it's like gun-ish, but because it's magic still, I think they really did a good job. Because I know people are really against guns and magic, but this isn't really a gun at all. It's not an equipment or anything. It's just like your fingers.
This was probably my favorite scene in the whole story. I think it's just really awesome that Xander knows he's going to die. And he's like running away and toying with his previous henchmen, sort of like messing them up for being traitors, basically. And then blocks them off, knowing that he has this picturesque balcony that he's going to die at, that is his favorite view in the city. And then Obnixilis like blasts in and is like so arrogant and laughing at him like, you thought you could get away from me by running to a balcony? I have wings, you moron. And it's just like, it paints this picture of one person who, like, it makes you like Xander because he knew this was all going to happen. He's not like kidding himself that he's going to be able to survive this encounter. But Obnixilis comes in and is such like a arrogant, like dumbass about the whole thing and just doesn't understand that Xander knew that all of this was going to happen. And then the like finger gun magic blast really adds to his arrogance, I think. And it paints like both characters so well. this one scene. Even though it's like a very quick fight scene, like Xander jumps at him and he blasts him out of the air off the balcony, and Xander dies. It's like, yeah, it's just really good scene.
Yeah. And I was kind of hoping that it wouldn't happen, but then looking back at some of the key art from when we first learned about New Capenna, there's literally a picture of Obnixilis standing in his pinstripe suit holding a dead Xander. So I went back and saw that. I was like, oh yeah, that's the guy. Okay. That makes more sense. Yeah, he's definitely dead. But I agree. They did a good job with that. And it does give a nice piece of like, Xander it gives him like an artistic feel where he's purposely trying to set up his own death to be this artistic piece. And you'll almost look down and see him splattered on the ground, and he's like an art piece on the sidewalk. Let's go back to the cabaret crescendo, where there is chaos ensuing. The adversaries' henchmen are there. They were waiting for this to happen, as we knew from chapter whatever. And they are starting to attack everyone because they were trying to get to Giada. So Elspeth snatches Giada, and so through all this, Elspeth feels horrible what is going on with this woman and can feel that she is a prisoner in her own family and can't get out, and she's getting drained for everything she has. Elspeth remembers that feeling from when she was a kid in her jail or whatever. So she grabs Giada. They basically ran backstage. They kind of bounce around some henchmen and fight some people, and eventually get into an alleyway that is outside of this space and away from all the chaos. Which, while the chaos is happening, I think like Jetmir gets stabbed. He's the main dude of the cabaret. And then like some other people get hurt, and it's just chaos. But we get to the alleyway, which is more important than all those other random things that are happening. So, Jeff, what happens there?
Yeah, so in the alleyway, there are basically like two henchmen who I think they were the adversaries guys. So the adversaries men were tracking Giada because they remember the adversary was the only one other than the cabaret that knew that she was the font. And so they are. There's a scene where it's like Elspeth is really trying to lose these people, and she just basically can't. They know what's going to happen, what Obnixilis is going to do if they lose the font here. And so basically, there are a couple of them that have now sort of cornered Elspeth and Giada, and they're moving in. And then they get hit by a green arrow that turns into a giant wolf that bites them in the head.
Oh, that's weird.
I think that's what happens. Yeah.
Huh. That doesn't sound like a normal arrow. What kind of arrow is that?
No, I mean, yeah.
Huh.
It was one of many. So, further green wolf arrows come into the fray. And then, of course, Vivian Reed was the source of this magical wolf arrow.
Right. I forgot she was in that story.
Just in the nick of time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So she kind of comes and saves the day. And it's like, yay, she saved from the adversary. And then we have this moment where Ginny kind of comes running out, who's the right hand of Jetmir, the main cabaret guy. And she is trying to get Giada back, basically thanking Elspeth. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for saving Giada. Or no, at this moment, I think she's calling her the font. So she's like, thank you for saving the font from everyone else. We need to make sure that the font is safe and the font is with us. And it is very obvious that Ginny does not have good intentions for Giada and wants to continue just milking her the way that they have been doing. And Elspeth knows this as well. And now we are kind of at this crossroads of like, Elspeth doesn't want to talk for Giada, but she knows what's best for her. And she kind of needs to get some sort of clarification. Giada, do you want to come with me? And I can save you, but I need you to say something or do something. And now, as we know, Giada isn't very verbal. So they do have kind of a look, and Elspeth just knows, nope, I'm going to keep you from these people. They're trying to take you back, and they're not the nice people that they seem like they are, and the way that they're talking right now is kind of evidence without using your name.
And so I guess Elspeth then communicates this to Vivian. If I remember correctly, actually, Ginny's getting kind of more and more pissed off that Elspeth isn't like giving up the font to her, sort of revealing her true colors and just being like, "All right, like I tried to do the nice thing. Thank you for saving the font. Now I'm like, cut the bullshit. Give me the fucking font," essentially. And then that's when Vivian shoots a green arrow that turns into a dragon this time that blocks the entire alleyway. And then they just basically run away because there's a huge fucking dragon blocking the path of their enemies to follow.
Yeah. Sick. Awesome. We cut back over to Obnixilis, who is looking over the dead body of Xander splattered on the ground. And there are a bunch of his henchmen coming back being like, hey, oh, sorry, boss, we have some bad news. We did not, in fact, get the font from the crescendo like we were supposed to. Our bad. That never really works out for the henchmen when they come back to say that. So,
I don't know who, like, did he draw the shortest straw or something? Or, like, how did this guy end up having to, you'd think you'd know. I really don't want to be the one to.
Yeah, I'm sure that he was trying to get there first so he could try to blame it on someone else. But usually you don't get to talk long enough for that to happen. So that's just a big old dummy right there. But we know that Obnixilis is pretty mad that they didn't get the font because that's what he wanted the most. But of course, Obnixilis spent all of his time killing Xander instead of getting the font. So what are you gonna do? Like, come on, man. What's more important?
I think that speaks to his understanding. Like, I think that speaks to Xander a little bit. If I send other people, they're not going to. I have to do it. Basically, no one else will be able to kill Xander.
Yeah.
And it's important that he dies as well as we get the font. Whereas, in the cabaret, he's like, yeah, my lowly henchman could probably pull that off.
That's true. I guess that does make sense because they're... normally I would say they're kind of intoxicated because of the halo, but it seems like the halo makes you much more intense and stronger and better. So... I don't know about that, but yes, I think you're right. It does say something about Xander that he is absolutely the one to get rid of because, hey, if you get the font, maybe Xander would be able to take it from you. So, good on him. Elspeth is now with Vivian and Giada, and they're all kind of running together. And Elspeth remembers, hey, we need a place to hide. You two go to this warehouse. I remember there used to be some raccoons over there, but don't worry about it. They're harmless. Harmless. Just run past them. But you can hide there for now. I need to go get a weapon. That's what I'm going to do. And Elspeth goes to the Maestro's museum to finally get a real weapon. And that is where we end episode 4.
Glad to see the raccoon folk make another appearance. And
yep.
I really wish they had reminded me that Elspeth didn't have a weapon a few more times than they did. Because I remember being totally blown away by this. I was like, wait, Elspeth doesn't have a weapon? Whoa.
Yeah. It's another reason.
You mentioned that several times in episode.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, that's another reason why you had to run from the cabaret. You couldn't fight them, and Vivian had to save your ass. But yes. So hopefully we're gonna start seeing some real fighting stuff if she can find a good enough weapon. But before that happens, Jeff, let's go to a beer break and get some more beer. Alrighty, Jeff, what's our third beer of the night?
This time, we decided we can't do all Polish beers, so we decided to get a Bavarian beer. Hofbrau München is the brewery, and this is the Hofbrau Original.
Yes. So this is a Bavarian beer, but it's also made in Germany. So I don't understand how that works, but I think what it is that I read the brewmaster is Bavarian, but then he went around a lot of places and learned how to brew and must make it in Germany now. I don't really know.
Yeah. I mean, it says right there, Bavarian beer, product of Germany on the back. This one is 5.1%, and it apparently started in 1589.
Another oldie.
Yeah, and this one might actually be like date back to 1589 if it's the original. It's the Hofbrau original, you know.
Yeah. None of that Warka Strong stuff. We got that Hofbrau original.
Yeah, yeah.
Jeff, let's make this long episode even longer. Let's go into episode number 5. This is the Hymn of the Angels.
Ho, ho, ho.
I wonder what's going to happen in this one. Maybe something about angels. I don't know.
All right, so here we are in the warehouse. The warehouse that we are totally sure is 100% safe, except for maybe some raccoon folk. Basically, Vivian kind of checks it out, and that leaves Elspeth and Giada alone for a little bit, and they have a sort of nice little heart-to-heart where Giada explains to Elspeth that she wants to be the savior of New Capenna, that gives them the halo that they really need, but she's worried that she's not going to be enough. She understands that every time she gives them the halo, it's making her weaker, and that it's not an infinite well. She's not an infinite well, and that she will run out, and she's worried that she won't be able to save New Capenna. And Elspeth kind of really identifies with that. You know, this whole relationship is sort of Elspeth seeing herself in Giada. And, you know, Elspeth was maybe in a more literal prison, whereas Giada was in sort of a prison of the cabaret. It didn't quite look the same, but she understands that it is the same.
I also liked this bit quite a bit, and this part hit home a little bit more than I was expecting. Literally home. It's just like a thing with Elspeth, my connection with her, I guess. I don't know. The theme of everything, but there's this one piece, this one sentence that's talking about trying to find real peace, real prosperity had to come from within by addressing the demons that literally built the city and the figurative ones that still haunted its streets. There's something about the demons that literally built the city and how kind of in North America, our lives were dealing with how our ancestors or like the people who inhabited this place have done damage on the native land that we don't have control over. There was something about that really got me reading this, being like, wow, that's the thing that's happening right now. Where we're kind of being like, I need to come to terms with the past that I didn't have control over, and I have to go towards a future that I do. That I don't know if that was intentional, but that especially with Vivian in the story, there was something about that really like got me. So that's just my little 2 cents.
Yeah, I think it probably was intentional, and I agree with you. It was nice. Basically, what happens is, because of this sort of heart-to-heart, Elspeth promises Giada that she'll protect her to her last breath. I think it's sort of the important part of that initial part of the story. And then they sleep in the warehouse, basically.
Yeah.
Turns out, maybe the warehouse wasn't that safe after all. They hear some rustling when they wake up. And just because they hadn't mentioned the irrelevant raccoon folk enough at this point, Elspeth just has to get it one last time in there. It's probably just the raccoon folk. Let's go back to sleep. So I think that's like 6 times the raccoon folk have been brought up and actually play no role in the story. Because, spoiler, it's not the raccoon folk that they hear that creates this rustling that wakes them up.
No, it's fucking Ginny again, trying to steal her daughter friend thing away from them. Oh, gosh. Ginny.
Yeah.
She brings 2 cabaret enforcers with her, and they're all big and scary. But, of course, we're not going to back down from a fight, so we're going to, try to fight our way out of this one. Doesn't really work out, though.
No, I think because, Ginny and her squad have the upper hand here, Elspeth's team just kind of woke up and thought it was raccoon folk. So there's a description of Vivian pulling out her bow, and Ginny's already thrown a dagger at her to sort of disarm her, and the dagger ends up hitting her, and she drops her bow, and then one of the henchmen picks it up right away. And sort of, there's this funny scene where the henchman taunts her, like, not so powerful without your bow, and then there's a whole, like, 2-paragraph description of how Vivian's, like, eyes told him that she is still powerful without her bow, and that he's gonna regret it, it's gonna be the last thing he does. But then she basically submits. I didn't really understand why there was this whole description of Vivian, I don't need my bow to kick your ass, but she does, I guess, because she doesn't proceed to kick his ass.
Yeah. Because she's kind of like, of the Planeswalkers, she's like the Hawkeye, right? Who just like, no, but you can't though, right? Like you're the arrow person. So anyway, they all get like handcuffed, and as this is happening, Elspeth's just trying to figure out how Ginny found them. Like, how did they find us in this warehouse? I was so good at hiding, I guess. Which we'll find out about.
She's like, it's a big city.
A little bit later.
I mean, okay, but as soon as I read that, I was like, tracking device, obviously.
Okay, so Giada has a tracking bracelet on her wrist that she didn't know about. Right. Yeah. So that's it. That's what happened. They were tracking her. I wish Giada had figured that out earlier, but what are you gonna do? And kind of with this, Giada isn't locked up with the rest of them, and she plays along a little bit that she's gonna go with Ginny just to lessen the blow on everybody else and kind of help smooth things out a little bit. Just to be like, no, I'll come with you. It's fine. I did want to be with you in the end. And so Elspeth has a moment of like, was I wrong? Did she actually want to come with us, or was that just me thinking she did?
Yeah, I mean, Giada plays it kind of well, actually, where she's just like, oh, thank you for saving me from them, or whatever, because she knows that she has a prior relationship with Ginny that she's sort of taking advantage of here. But yeah, the side effect is that Elspeth is like, wait, I thought you wanted to come with me. Was I really abducting you? Mm-hmm. Although after like the heart-to-heart they had last night, she must know that isn't the case. But they need to throw a little bit of tension in there.
It's true, and
maybe.
Yeah, I mean, like if she's playing Ginny this way, you could also, if you're Elspeth, you'd worry that maybe she was just making it up with you too because you were in power at that time. Right. So, I could see it. In any case, they're not going to go back to the Ventolione because it's been compromised. So they have to hide somewhere else. Also, we know that Jetmir is in very dire conditions, and we need to make sure that he's doing okay because he is the highest member of the family, and we can't have 2 family members die. Of course, they don't know about Xander, but still.
Well, I guess that is worth mentioning that Giada's very upset, or sorry, Ginny was very upset and was going to kill Elspeth and Vivian. And then Giada says, oh, like, you don't get to make that decision. Jetmir has to choose what happens to traitors.
Oh, you're right.
That's the Cabaretti way.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how we find out about Jetmir. And she's like, okay, you're right. We have to take them to Jetmir. So Giada actually kind of saves the day on that one.
Yeah. She kind of saves the day in a lot of ways in this entire story. So go Giada. Right. I like her. I don't think I've seen her card yet, or if she has a card or anything, but I hope it's cool. I'll play it, maybe. Don't quote me on that one. I probably won't.
It's going to be a white card, I guess, so there you go.
That's true. If it's a white card, I could see it being white-green, maybe not. But if I could put it in a Bant deck. Anyway, I'm not talking about that right now. We're talking about the story, and we are going to see the biggest grievance that I could no, maybe not the biggest grievance I have in this story, but like a pretty big one. This is pretty upsetting. So we're going to this place where we have Jetmir is hidden and safe, apparently, and I think it's with the Obscura, I guess. Basically, the entire city of New Capenna is all fucked up. Everybody's fighting, and it's just like a war zone right now. So Ginny is taking her captives and Giada to this safe haven.
It's just that this is the Obscura place that Elspeth delivered the package to.
You're right. You're so right.
Yeah.
So this does have some meaning to Elspeth. Oh, I remember this place.
Right.
So that test did mean something in the end, I guess. That she recognizes
It's
the place.
them trying to make that relevant
For sure.
later.
And it kind of does. You're right. It kind of does. So we do see this cephalid woman in a navy trench coat, and the really interesting thing about the cephalid woman is that she doesn't look like a cephalid,
Even a little bit.
and she's just like a merfolk thing.
She has like a webbed hands.
Yeah, like a merfolk. Does she have like
Yeah.
a beak and like tentacles and a large bulbous head like a cephalid? Cephalid's like a squid, if anyone knows. They're like squid octopus things. So we haven't really seen him since Odyssey Block. It's kind of upsetting. I'm a little upset. Like, we don't need. Sure, she's like just a little too humanoid, and then like, oh, everything's so humanoid.
Just not a cephalid, but it definitely says that she's cephalid in the story.
Yeah.
It's to the point where I legitimately wonder if it's like a typo, but
No, because it's the card is a cephalid too, so
I see.
it's like it was a purposeful thing to be like, oh, we're bringing cephalids back, but not in a real way, in a fake. Oh, I'm a humanoid thing. You're a merfolk. There's no way you're a merfolk. I can't get over that.
Yeah.
Anyway, usually I don't get thrown off by stuff like that, but cephalids, there's, I always thought they were super cool, so I was hoping that they'd come back as like what they really are, but whatever. Anyway, she is a cool character though. She's pretty cool. I don't remember her name. No, actually, no, I do. It's Camille. Sorry, you should start talking because I'm getting a little bit drunker than I thought I was going to be at this point. You take over.
Anyways, Camille runs this hideout that Elspeth delivered the package to earlier. So Elspeth comes up and is like, "Hey guys, this is an Obscura hideout," and Ginny's like, "Yeah, no fucking shit, okay." And Elspeth's like, "Yeah, but don't you think maybe the adversary has infiltrated the Obscura since he's infiltrated all of the other ones?" And then Ginny's like, "I think I can tell a traitor when I see one." So immediately, obviously this lady's going to betray them. I mean, that's the only way that this can go after that interaction happens. So we walk into the hideout. We see, as promised, Jetmir not looking so hot. And pretty much nothing happens between them walking in and them getting ambushed. And this is another part where the Riveteer are sort of shoehorned into the story, because apparently it's Riveteers that ambush the Obscura hideout, which I don't know. They didn't really explain how that happens. That doesn't make a ton of sense. But they were somehow betrayed by Riveteers in the Obscura hideout.
I forgot it was the Riveteers. You're right. No, that's great. I'm happy that it was that, because ultimately one of my criticisms was that I was hoping there'd be more inner family struggles. So it's nice that that is true. I kept thinking it was just the adversary people the whole time. It's also good to note that Giada. Sorry, what?
I was just going to say they had to cram in like a couple of more houses in this last story that didn't play any part. So Obscura hideout, ambushed by Riveteers. Don't worry about how that makes sense, that the Riveteers knew where the Obscura hideout is. The Obscuras are known for their, hiding abilities, but still.
Yeah, and the brokers are nowhere to be seen. No, so Giada does take a vial and produce some Halo that's supposed to heal Jetmir. Because Halo also has healing properties, because Halo can do fucking everything. It's like the drug. It's like a
you want it to do, it does.
It's a multivitamin that also is scotch and cocaine. It's amazing.
And like oil, because it powers their industry as well. So.
Oh, right. It comes in many forms. In any case, they have to run again because they're getting attacked by these Riveteers, and it's just all over the place. Oh, did we talk about Elspeth's sword? I think we forgot about Elspeth's sword. That happened in the last one. She got a sword.
Did we not say that? Yeah, anyway, she picked up a sword.
She picked up the sword from the Maestro's Museum. It was in Xander's office safe thing. It's really cool. It's got a ball thing and it's all swirly and it's a sword right now.
It's too big for her, basically.
Yes.
Anyways, so I think this is when Elspeth just like wills her handcuffs off. She's just like, you know what, fuck these handcuffs.
No, she casts disenchant.
Oh, but how is that like fundamentally different?
No, it's not. No, you're right. It's just it's like one of the first times we see a planeswalker cast a real spell that we've seen in Magic. I guess no, there might be like no.
It's true. I can get behind that.
They make up other ones, but like Elspeth literally casts disenchant on her shackles, and she's like, "Nope, I'm not.
Right.
I'm not pacified anymore. I guess, or arrested. I'm no longer arrested. There we go. That checks out.
I guess my issue is that like she then has to help Vivian out, and like green also has disenchant effects.
But
so if it was like she had to
that's
help
true.
out like a red planeswalker, it'd be like, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
But, I feel like Vivian probably could also do it.
I was about to
You
say.
can naturalize it.
I was about to say like, oh, Vivian's cards only create creatures, and you get to draw cards because of creatures. But Elspeth also just puts counters on stuff and destroys creatures.
Neither of them disenchant
Big.
stuff.
Yeah, neither of them disenchant stuff. But that would be a really good planeswalker ability. Plus
Actually,
one
I think
disenchant.
Vivian Reed, the -3, like either kills a flyer or an artifact. Like, don't quote me on that. But
Oh,
I think
you gotta
actually
be-
Vivian might be.
Yeah.
Be able to
And
destroy
Elspeth
artifacts.
just like loves tokens and like little dudes.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so she casts disenchant, which is exciting, and then they get out of there and they're running away. And there's like the cephalid lady, and
They fight off all the dudes, and then the cephalid lady's like, "Hey, come this way. I know a way out." And they're all like, "Oh yeah, it totally wasn't you that betrayed us. Let's follow you." And so they all follow the cephalid lady out because she's gonna take them to the Obscura home base, the Obscura triome, as it were. And she said, "If that's not safe, nothing is," which was very convincing. And so everyone just followed her.
which is Park Heights, apparently. It's the Park Heights Cathedral. Which, once again, why is this not the name of the frickin' triumph? Park Heights Cathedral? So much curer than whatever the legendary creature's name is.
Whatever it's actually called, I'm sure it's dumb.
And through some of this, as we're running away, Giada and Elspeth have like a couple moments where they're like, you know what? You're doing all right. I like you. And Giada takes off her like bracelet thing and kind of throws it on the ground and mouths to Elspeth that it was the tracking device, which we had mentioned earlier. Oh, there was a tracking device on
That's
her.
when we learned that, yeah.
So, great.
And I think you mentioned she prepared the healing halo for Jetmir, but she actually ends up giving that to Elspeth. Elspeth gets kind of fucked up in the fight, drinks this healing halo, and feels a bit better.
Sick. Thanks, Giada. It's only cool because she didn't ask for it. Otherwise, we never ask Giada for it for Halo. You just have to wait for her to give it to you, because that's acceptable.
Exactly.
Yeah. But besides that, Elspeth and like the good guys never really use the Halo for anything. Though, I kind of wish they did. Like, yeah, things could have been a lot better if you just like fucking juiced up a little bit. But like, I mean, you had a continuous amount of. I understand that you're not supposed to use it because you're fighting against the people that are forcing her to make it, but it could have been a little bit better if you used a little bit. Just just a taste.
Anyways, it turns out the cephalid, not cephalid, was the one betraying them, and obviously is leading them into yet another trap. This one, even worse. It turns out the original trap was just to get rid of their associates, their bodyguards, the people that were with them, sort of isolate Giada was the plan. And the secondary trap was really bring it home. Let's get Giada now. But of course, cephalid, not cephalid, did not anticipate two planeswalkers being in the mist. They didn't realize that Elspeth and Vivian would be part of this. And so that was their fatal flaw.
And with that, we have Elspeth taking Giada and running away, and Giada's like, "Oh no, but what about Ginny?" And Elspeth's like, "She made her choice. She did this to herself." Which is true, she did.
Dude, Ginny's the worst.
She's the fucking worst. She didn't even remember your name for a while in the story, so like, just be okay with that.
She basically referred to you as the tool.
Yeah,
she called you the font.
The water fountain. You're the water fountain. I need you for this.
So, I think we all know where this is going. We have some people running away from a big trap. And where are they running to? Well, could it be a confrontation with the big bad enemy guy? I think it's probably running right into a confrontation with the big bad enemy guy.
That makes a lot of sense. Also, they happen to be in basically this cathedral that has a bunch of angel statues. Crazy. That's so weird. Wow. You can also hear like some singing and stuff when you're in there. Nuts. That's some very surprising stuff in a church. I wonder what's going to happen to the font now.
Wait a minute. Didn't they say Halo came from angels? Giada makes Halo. Oh, let me piece this together. And then she's hearing voices from angel statues.
Is she an angel?
There we go. I knew we'd get there. Eventually. Yeah.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that they say something about like Elspeth seeing the glow around Giada, but also around herself, and like hearing the voices as well. And I interpreted that to mean it's because of the halo she drank. Like she just drank angel essence shortly before. But then it's like, I feel like that would have been more of a thing if you drink angel essence and hear the voices of angels. And remember that it's not a drug, so they wouldn't want it to be canon that you drink Halo and then hear the voices of angels and see things glowing when they're not. So, I don't know, were they trying to hint that Elspeth was of angelic descent herself? Or was it just, she just drank Halo and so therefore she just drank Giada's like essence and therefore was feeling the same thing Giada was?
I was just thinking that it was more so that she was close enough to Giada that she was kind of experiencing some of her, like what was happening to her, that it was something that would reverberate off of Giada a little bit. So if you're close enough, you could hear it. But I like the idea that she was an angel at some point, and that's why her name is so old. And Elspeth could be like an old angel.
Right.
Name.
Like, I think, maybe there's some angelic sort of heritage there is maybe what they were hinting at. Especially combined with it's the old like angel kind of name.
For sure. Absolutely. So, the rest of this seemingly is not extremely exciting, which you would think it's really exciting, but it doesn't. To me, it seemed like it just kind of wrapped up and was just like done.
Right.
Tell me if I'm wrong, but that's what I remember. And basically, it's once again, Obnixilis is now here to do exactly what everyone else wanted to do, was take the font and have control over Halo so you could control New Capenna and do all of those things. And, Elspeth is, of course, not going to let him get away with this. And there is a fight, but in the end, it really just seems like Giada takes control and bursts into a giant angel halo being that kind of explodes through the entire room and is the most powerful thing around. So this captive person that we have ends up being able to protect themselves and everyone else through their power.
Yeah, it goes as you'd expect, right? Like, okay, Elspeth is trying to fight Obnixilis and protect Giada. Obnixilis is too fast for her, too strong for her. He's basically better in every way. And she's like doing okay, but is obviously going to lose. And then Giada ascends into her angelic destiny. You know, it has this explosion of light and halo and joins her angel fellow angels. Because if it's not clear, she's an angel.
Mm-hmm.
And this power invigorates Elspeth. She shoots this power towards Elspeth, makes her faster, stronger, and importantly, improves her sword so that it is a better sword, more balanced and more powerful, I guess. And then Elspeth beats Obnixilis. It's sort of the opposite. She's too fast and strong for him, and then he planeswalks away like a little bitch, and that's what happens.
Yep, and that's basically the end. Now, okay, there's something important we do need to talk about. Now, I don't know if it's right now or if it happens later. Let's quickly talk about what happens later in the epilogue, and then I want to circle back to the important thing that is the hot button topic, I guess, of everything. But
oh, I didn't realize there was one of those.
Yeah, so in our epilogue, Elspeth and Vivian are like around the museum, and they're kind of looking at all the destruction of what has happened to the maestros, but also just like all of New Capenna. And Hello is there, and he ends up having this like note that is for him, but it has something to do with Elspeth. And so it kind of explains how Hello is going to take over the family once he's gone, kind of with a P.S. Elspeth can do whatever she wants with any of my stuff. Like, hey, she has been wanting to learn about New Capenna and all of our archives and whatever. Just let her do it. Like, it's fine. She's cool. I liked her a lot. She's good. And so Elspeth's like, oh, sweet. That's all I've ever wanted to do. Thank you so much, and Hello, for being such a cool, nice dude to let this happen and being very trustworthy and respectful for your dead, I guess, elder.
Yeah, and so Elspeth and Vivian basically get all up in the archives of New Capenna, and I mean, I wouldn't say they learned anything that maybe they couldn't have pieced together themselves, but essentially remember how the angels and the demons made a pact. What they learned is that the demons betrayed the angels, in a sense, where what they did is they actually turned their bodies, their life forces, into Halo. And that's how Halo started, and the purpose of this was to fight off the Phyrexians. And so not only is Halo a drug and it's alcohol and it powers the city and it makes you stronger and it invigorates you and it heals you, it is also apparently the way that you fight Phyrexians. So that was kind of the key thing that we learned. Elspeth's journey to this plane was, fruitful, and we now have a weapon against the Phyrexians.
And that's it. That is the big reveal at the end of the entire story. And we are finished with the story. Nothing else happens.
Well, okay, so there is one more important thing. Vivian learned from Urabask that there is some sort of insurrection planned in New Phyrexia. There is some sort of mutiny planned, and so she thinks that might be the right time to strike. So that just struck me as odd, because it's like Tezzeret came, grabbed her, brought her to Urabask, and then they didn't kill her or try to complete her. They just told her that there's some sort of insurrection happening in New Phyrexia. It's like a revolution.
It seems like that's...
Okay.
Maybe Urabask is tired of being the worst one and wants to fight against the other Phyrexians. Is that it?
Yeah.
Could be.
I mean, maybe he hates Atraxa like everyone else.
In any case, this is the end of our story. And we kind of left with a lot of information we already knew. The entire point of the story seems to be learning about New Capenna, which was given to us through other sources that weren't the story. And in the debut video where they talk about cards and stuff that comes out and it's like a big thing, they talk about Halo, and they specifically talk about how it's like squeezed up angels. it seems a little bit sad that the point of the story is to learn about something that we already know. Like the lifespan of the story seems to be only until the point where the video comes out, essentially. Because the video only came out like, maybe 4 or 5 days ago. But like, if you watch the video, the story's not worth reading, essentially. Kind of a bummer. Kind of a bummer with this one, I think. Not my favorite.
Yeah, I did have that experience that I saw the video before reading most of the story. And it left me feeling with like a lot of the story was pointless, like you're saying. And so I definitely sympathize with that criticism, because it's like, of the 5 short stories, 3 of them were just setting the stage, and all the stuff that you basically learn in those 3 stories was already told to us. So it's like, all right, so 60% of this was not really worth reading. And then even some big reveals at the end, like, oh, it turns out that Halo is angel juice. It's like, yeah, we already knew that, though. Like, you already told us that. You even made a joke about it. You called it out explicitly in the reveal videos.
Yeah. And also, how can you not... So, this is another thing. So, we already talked about how WotC told people not to make it like a drug or whatever, or an alcoholic drink. They sent a bunch of streamers and everybody a bunch of, their normal stuff with glasses with like gold rim tips and like a box, and it said Halo dust, but it's like it was glitter or whatever. But it's like, so you're sending angel dust to a bunch of streamers to make your cool drug look cool? Like, that was just... It was like hilarious, but
definitely getting some mixed messages.
I'm so confused what you want, man. Like,
they want the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
They want everyone to understand this is like a drug, but they also don't want to be on record of it being a drug.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to, alienate people.
Anyway.
So they're just going to explicitly do both somehow.
Yeah. Make no mistake, this is absolutely a drug. This is a drug world. We're full of drugs. Halo's a drug. There's lots of drugs. It's about drugs.
Yeah.
And we know that it's not okay to, hey, if you have a friend who just poops out drugs, you can't force them to poop out drugs for you. That's what we learned, okay?
Yeah.
You treat them like a human being, and maybe they give you some of their pooped out drugs. But it's up to them. Anyway.
Yeah. It's their choice.
It's their choice. Yeah. I read the whole story before the video came out, so I knew all of it a couple days before, which was nice. But then at the same time, it was like, ultimately, I don't know. I don't give this a high grade as far as the story goes, though written well. I thought the writing was well done. I think the structure was weird.
Yeah, they had some odd constraints to work with. It's like, hey, writers, come up with a reason why Vivian is there. They're like, what? It's like, yeah, you have like 50 words to do it.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
But there was nothing like, I think that the writer, so her name is Elisa Kova, and I think she did a really good job. And I specifically found multiple points in the story where I literally had to talk about the actual writing and read it because I really liked it. So I'm giving big props to Elisa Kova. It's more the content that you were given that was rough.
I think there were some constraints that you had to work with that were less than ideal.
So I'm saying that the story wasn't great, but Elisa Kova, you did a good job. I liked you. I know that it wasn't your fault.
Yeah, because she had some really nice moments that I always thought back to. I'm just like, I just have to compliment the writer on this scene
thing, and like the way that you put the Xander thing together, great. Good stuff. You know what? The only criticism is I don't think there was enough raccoon folk in the story. If they could add
should
more.
have mentioned raccoon. I was talking about constraints earlier. I'm like, you must mention raccoon folk at least 7 times.
That was probably
that surprise.
That was like on the breakdown. You have to mention raccoon folk this many times and figure it out.
But please don't feature them in your story.
Yeah. Jeff, this is absolutely the longest episode we have ever had in our entire recorded podcast. Let's go to our last beer and talk about the beers.
Yeah, we still have another beer. Holy shit.
Nothing sounds as nice as a can, you know. Bottles are good though, but cans, you know, they just make a better sound. One day we will talk about bottles versus cans. It will not be today because boy, do we need to blast through these beers and these ratings. Because this is the longest episode we've ever had in our entire lives. All right. So this last beer, we are drinking one more, which is pronounced, I don't know, Zayweek. I don't know. Jeff, do you know how to say this?
I didn't look it up, but I'm trying to apply what we learned earlier. I'm going to say Zaywiek?
I could see Zaywiek. If you are interested in looking at the pronunciation or the how these beers are spelled, check out our Instagram. It's at Arena Regulars. They'll all be there. But it is another pale lager from Poland. It's 5.5%, though normally it's 5.6% in Poland. It's different here and anything that is exported. And it was founded in 1856.
Yeah.
It's a darn new one. That's what it is.
Downright recent.
Downright recent.
I see from the bottle that it's brewed using 3 ingredients only.
Interesting.
They seem proud of that.
Is that a good idea?
I mean, I feel like it's water, barley, and yeast. So does that mean there's no hops? Because usually beer's 4.
All right, Jeff. Are you ready to rate some beers? Do you have some ratings in your mind?
I need to get a good sip of this.
This new one?
Zaywiek.
Fuck. I think I feel a little lost, but I think I'll be able to figure it out.
I think I can get started.
Okay.
And we can let it play from there. So, just to remind you, we have 4 silver beers that we've tried tonight. Of course, we will be ranking them from best to worst because that's what we do. And that means that we will start at the bottom, silver 4, and up to silver 1, just like in Arena. It's funny how that always seems to work out every single episode. You know, the tiers of beer lines up with the tiers in Arena. It's crazy. We're like 72 for 72 on that. So, I guess we'll start with silver 4, and I'm definitely ready for what I'm going to rank as silver 4. Cool. And for me, I'm sorry for all of you Bavarian/German fans, but interestingly enough, the only beer that we chose that is not Polish is getting the silver 4 rating for me. That's the Hofbrau München Hofbrau Original.
Tasting this one right here, I'm still iffy, but I think I might join you. That one sucked. I wasn't.
It sucked, right?
Yeah, I didn't. I remember drinking it and being like, "Whoa, boy, I don't like this one." Yeah. Hofbrau Original.
That one just hit me like a wave. As soon as I took the sip, I was like, "All right, this is my contender for silver 4." And it didn't get better as I drank it. You know, sometimes your first sip's a little off-putting, but you adapt. That wasn't the problem here. The problem was that I don't like this beer. It almost had like a skunky flavor to me.
It had a skunky flavor.
It was like a weird.
It's
right.
Yeah, it reminded me of what I always think Heineken is, and then when I have Heineken, I usually don't like it. But then we had our episode on Heineken, I liked it. So, it had that skunky, gross thing that I don't like. But
right,
my fiance really likes that skunky stuff, so she probably would like this.
There you go.
She also smokes weed,
little extra funk.
She wants her beer to taste like weed, which is weird. I'm like, ugh, no, you don't want that skunky crap.
So, like, saying something's dank is a compliment to her.
Yeah, exactly. Dank beers is what she likes. I'm going into silver 3. I got this one right in my hand, buddy. Joy. What did I say this? Zyweek. Wait. Zwiek.
Jiviek.
Zwiek.
Jiviek.
Zwiek.
Jiviek.
Zwiek. This one. I don't like this one very much. It's better than the German thing or the Bavarian thing or whatever that is, but this one I will not get again. If that's
You know what? We're approaching maybe the first time that we've aligned on a silver series. That might be in the works because I think this one's got to be silver 3. It has to be. This tastes like nothing.
Yeah, it was almost my silver 4, but I remembered that you were absolutely right about Hofbrau or whatever. Didn't like that one. Maybe all these ones. So to be fair, I was the one who said we should do all these Polish beers for the podcast. I had went to a Polish restaurant. They are like so nice when you're drinking or eating Polish food is what I meant. Or like cabbage rolls and a bunch of all these different sausages and things. They always pair nicely, but drinking them alone, I'm like fairly underwhelmed. It might be the best thing.
This is the ultimate test, doing a silver series. I love the nod to cabbage rolls, though. Super underrated food. They're amazing.
Delicious.
All right, let's go on to silver 2. I think for me, silver 2 is the Vodka Strong.
Ooh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I kind of expected to like this one the best just because it had some of those... it was kind of cheating in the silver category by having some darker malts thrown in there to give it a little more flavor. But it didn't meet my expectations. So I got to go silver 2 on Vodka Strong.
Interesting. So through that, of course, my silver 2 is going to be Lejask or whatever. How do you say that?
Yeah, you wouldn't find it interesting if you had the same choice. So
yeah. Because my silver one was Vodka Strong. I have had this one before at that restaurant, but tasting it again and tasting against these, it does give me enough of that maltiness, even though it's so ordinary that I do like it. So it ended up being my silver one.
Yeah, I think it had like a bit of sweetness that was coming through from the maltiness, like the extra grains that they added. It came through to me as sweet rather than as like body. And so I think it just wasn't quite what I was looking for. And the Lejaisk is I guess my winner. But I gotta be honest, I don't have high hopes for any of these in the grand competition. I think, we've had some other silver series where I was more impressed. So
this silver series has been so funny of like the story being so subpar and the beers being I'm really happy that we
but also it's our longest episode somehow.
So yeah, exactly. We had a lot to. You always have more to say about the things you don't like than the things that you do like. Usually it's like obviously you can tell it's really good, right? Because it is, and the things you don't like are like these are all the reasons this fucking sucks, and I'm going to remember more as we talk about it. So,
yeah.
Anyway. Hey, super disappointing all around.
All around. Yeah.
Worst silver series ever. I love it.
With the exception of the author, she did a great job given the file she was handed.
Exactly. Let me one more time remind you that her name is Elise Kova. Awesome. Love Elise Kova. I actually want to read more of her books because I was actively impressed. Like, I do think that of all the magic authors, she felt like the best one to me. Even though the story was not great, it felt the best written of ones, which is weird.
Yeah.
Like, I feel
it was a weird thing where like I had to take a step back and then realize the story sucked. because I was engaged. And
I was
so
very
that's,
engaged the whole time.
After a few episodes, I was like, wait a minute, nothing has happened.
Wait, this fucking sucks.
There's so many dumb things that. Yeah.
But I was still really interested in like Elspeth at her laundry job, and I'm like, yeah, I am actually kind of interested in
Right,
this.
exactly.
How did you do that?
If the author has me interested in Elspeth working at the dry cleaner, then yeah, I'm into it.
But with that, last call is ending, and we are headed to closing time.
All right, it was a marathon.
This is a fucking marathon. Hey, if you're still with us, wow.
Yeah,
Thank you. You can always reach us at Arena Regulars on Twitter and Instagram to tell us that you are a marathon runner, or you are a marathon listener, I guess is the case.
Yeah, you might find us on MTG Arena, maybe even in the Arena Open this weekend. We'll be under the username Arena Regulars Podcast.
It has been so long since we mentioned the Arena Open, I forgot it was happening. If you happen to see me in the Arena Open, my username is Zulberg, Zeulberg on Arena, Twitter, and Instagram. But Jeff, where can they find you?
Yeah, on Arena, I'm Blues Brews, and on Twitter, Blues Brews MTG.
Hey, look at that. Please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It means a lot to us. We love reading those. Go to our Spotify, rate us there as well as iTunes, and follow us on any place that you're listening to our podcast right now, as well as YouTube. Leave a comment. Hey, honestly, we just want to talk to you. That's all we ever want to do. This has been the Arena Regulars.
Reminding you that this has been a long-ass episode. Thanks for sticking with us.
Good night. All right, that's fine.